Buckle up and get ready for a roller coaster ride of some tasteless humor, lots of heart, and radical truth with two scrappy chicks. Because adulting is hard, but we are thinking that laughing about it is just so much easier.
Hi, everybody. We are on a series, and I did want to talk about or continue to talk about coercive control and DARVO. Don't know if you've ever heard about that. Have you heard about that before, Ginger?
Coercive control, yeah. DARVO sounds familiar.
Yes, yeah. So it's tied in. So, because here's the thing, coercive control isn't always bruises, right? It's could be monitoring your phone, isolating you from your family and your friends, or anyone really, even coworkers, anyone that they feel would give you, an outside perspective as to what's going on. They can control your finances, gaslighting you, making you feel like you're too emotional or you're overreacting. So they basically rewrite the story, rewrite history so that you begin to question your own reality. So DARVO, this is what it stands for. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. And this can be so successful that it's even believed by trained professionals like the police, attorneys, judges, social workers, where the offender actually blames the victim and they present so well because they're so calm, while the victim is oftentimes, falling apart and crying and upset because, these horrible things are happening and they feel like their life is just spinning out of control. And then they're also being gaslit and being told, you're crazy, you're the problem. And unfortunately, it makes the victim do look like they are the problem because perpetrator, offender, whatever you want to call him, he's calm, cool, collected, and then the other person is what they call dysregulated. I guess that's the new word. And the offenders use this to their advantage. And I'm telling you, it works because it happened to me on more than one occasion and with more than one, authority figure, whether it was the police, a counselor, a social worker. I even had an attorney give me some mumbo jumbo about how I was the problem and the other person really wasn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot, it's like being in hell. So DARVO is a tactic used by a perpetrator to avoid accountability for their actions. So the perpetrator denies the harm or abuse even took place, period, full stop. So even when they're confronted with evidence, the perpetrator attacks the person that they have harmed or are still harming. So the attacker may also attack the victim's family or friends. And I got to tell you, this happened with me as well. Excuse me. Like my family, on several occasions, witnessed the abuse, heard him screaming and yelling at me. But then they came to me and were angry with me about what he was doing to me. Like I had any control over the situation, but I was continually blamed and made to be responsible for his violent behavior. I'm serious. And if that doesn't make you question your sanity and your reality, I don't know what will. So, so then the perpetrator claims that they were or are actually the victim in a circumstance, right? Because it's my fault. She, me being, being the she, made them do it. I said this, I did that. Therefore, whatever they do is completely justified because I'm the instigator, I'm the problem. So it reverses the positions of victim and offender. And I know it's like I'm trying to keep my spot here because it's even confusing me now. Imagine living in this. And I think you have with number one, right? Wasn't he continually turning the tables on you too, trying to make it look like you were the problem?
Yes, a good example was Ashley was just a couple months old. He decided to go hang out with his ex-girlfriend and her friend, and he rode in their car, and they ended up all the way in Blue Island, and he's calling me in the middle of the night. Oh, they're not going to drive me home. You need to come pick me up. No. And And he was shocked I said no. And I'm like, I'm not waking up a sleeping child to drive in the dark to pick you up when you chose to go with them. And I bet you if it was anyone else, like a friend that dropped him off and he came home, he probably would have beat the hell out of me. But the fact that it was his parents that dropped him off, I lucked out. But they were pissed off, not at him, but me. And I was just like, how is this even right? Because
Right.
he's the one that did wrong, and they're mad
Right.
at me that I didn't get him. And his mom's like, you should have got him. No, he's your husband. Yeah. Did he tell you where he was? Would you
It doesn't
have
matter
to
though.
go?
That's what I mean. It doesn't matter. They get a pass.
Yeah. So I was pissed. But when you were talking about all that stuff prior, I thought of Gabby Petito and when remember when they got pulled over because somebody called on them that someone was getting
Yes.
hit, and you remember the video
Yes.
where she's crying that she'd
Yes.
still be alive had they done things differently.
Yes. Because that's what I mean. That's how scary this is. And that's why it's so important, I think, for women to really understand what this is, how to identify it, how to stop it, and how to not buy into it. Because it's too easy to get pulled down with these tactics. Like like you were saying, the perpetrator plays the victim and then they blame the actual victim. So and as we know, because the perpetrator, they're avoiding accountability by manipulating observers, so outside people, manipulating their perceptions of what's actually happening and what's going on. And they can be so convincing. And you made a very good point with Gabby Petito, that the cops were just not taking this seriously. They really weren't. And when you're in that situation, you feel completely hopeless and helpless. And everything is spinning out around you. And you have this person continually, gaslighting you and mentally, probably physically too, sometimes battering you. And you literally can't think straight because they are blaming you, the victim, for everything that they're saying or doing. And if you just shut your mouth and don't say or do anything, then everything will be honky dory, which we also know is not true. So um, there is I was going to say, they kind of spell it out what it means. But so the research on interpersonal violence, it's mostly focused on how perpetrators use individual components or steps of DARVO. Studies before and after DARVO was coined, which I guess it was coined in 2010. And it's essentially the same thing. The perpetrators are just trying to minimize or deny their wrongdoing, and those who reverse the positions of victim to offender. So the research during the 2010s began to focus on the use and effect of DARVO, the tactics and combinations, suggesting that DARVO is a very all too common tactic used by the perpetrators. Because here's the thing, it's really about power. It's not about love. It's not about passion. It's not about, anything but power. And like we were saying, they keep you financially dependent. They socially isolate you. Their threats are actually marked as concern. Well, it's for your own good. If you just shut your mouth, then nothing will happen to you. You're the problem, and they can micro regulate every little aspect of your life. What are you wearing? Who are you talking to? Where are you going? What time are you leaving? What time are you coming back? I know how long it takes you to be in that store. I got that from my first husband. I know how long it takes you to get there. I know how long it takes you to get your shot. I know how long it takes you to get home. Why are you wearing that? Well, I mean, did I tell you he even stole my driver's license and threw it out. And I didn't realize that until I got pulled over one day. And all of a sudden, I no longer had a driver's license. So then I got taken to the police station. So that was fun. Um, so then you talk about, okay, when someone has to shrink you to feel powerful, we know it's a very clear sign of control. So and then you do get to a point where it's a breaking point. You kind of have to make a decision. And then what do I do? Because unfortunately, you do feel like there's no help out there because people are not recognizing what's actually happening. Like the moment you realized, okay, this is not me. I'm not creating this. I'm not doing this. This isn't normal. You know, like in your body, you're feeling, and I did, I had horrible anxiety, had stomach issues. I had horrible insomnia. I think I was telling you I was self-medicating with an over-the-counter like cold medication because it was so strong. It would help me to calm down and actually help me to sleep. Um, and unfortunately, women do take the blame and take the shame and they hide it. I know I did. I hid it. Not very well. I mean, I thought I was hiding it, but like I said, the people that I worked with at the time approached me because they had training in the cycle of abuse. And when they approached me, hey, you know, your husband fits the profile of a batterer because of all this wackadoo behavior, calling and coming over to, you know, coming to the job and go, you know, ranging from screaming and yelling to, oh, I love you. I just wanted to say I love you and tell you, you know, I hope you had a good day. And then, you know, screaming and yelling, you know, how stupid I was. And even though I was the only one that was working, I, of course, didn't manage the money the way he thought I should. And he even said towards the end, just before I left, that he was going to then take control of the money because he could do a better job. Because I was obviously making sure that bills were getting paid, we had food and everything, kept our utilities on, but that wasn't good enough because he wanted to have the money for haha money for playtime. So when you come to that point where you want to start looking at options and getting help, and you want to start looking for ways to leave that situation, exiting safely is probably going to be top priority. Um, and you want to start documenting things early on if you can. You can't have it on your computer, you can't have it on your phone. I don't know what your work situation is, if you're even able to work, but you have to create an exit plan and you got to be real quiet about it. And like the people that were helping me, only took me a week once I finally was approached to get help, to get out of that situation. And I don't want, you know, anyone to think either, oh, well, you're running away from your problems, or no, we were escaping a very dangerous situation. And it was the smartest thing I could have done. I just could not have done it myself, which is why I try to tell people, try not to judge and shame people who are in these situations, because they truly, I know I did. I tried to get out on my own and I had family basically telling me I had to take them back. So when you really feel like there's nothing and no one out there to help you, you don't know what to do. And it was a godsend that these people at my job recognized what was happening to me and they were able to help me implement a plan and get me and my children safely out. Um, and here's where things get really great, though. They do. You Once you get your plan and you're successfully out of that situation, you do get to basically start healing and start rebuilding. Now, it's been a really long time for me. But I think at that point, even then, I was still like always looking over my shoulder. I was always concerned about, and I would hear the, you know, the self-talk in my mind about being careful not to do this and being careful not to say that. And that kind of carried over for a while. But once I realized I was free, it was, and my children were free, it was like the most amazing feeling. And I had some really wonderful women that were involved in this program that were so supportive and so encouraging. And I just wish I even remembered the name of the organization, honestly, to reach out to them. But maybe, who knows, maybe this will reach them and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I remember that lady and her kids. And because I remember they told me, you know, women typically don't leave over the holidays. I left December 22nd. because they try and get through it. And I'm like, oh my God, no. When I had the opportunity to go, I thought anything is better than this hell. It didn't even matter. And I had, envisioned all kinds of horrible situations. I thought anything's going to be better than where I'm at with this lunatic. And little did I know that when we went, I think I had mentioned before, we went into a beautiful 5-bedroom home in the California hills. We even had orange trees in the backyard. It was really lovely. And it was probably the first time in years that I was actually able to sleep without worrying about what was going to happen to me that night, the next morning, etc. And that's why I think it's so important to me to talk about these situations. And, I'm so glad that you've been able to talk to me too about your situations, because I do feel that we are here to help support each other. And by sharing our stories, we take the stigma out of it. We take the blame out of it. We take, all of that guilt and unpack all of that and be like, it wasn't your fault. You didn't ask for this. You didn't do anything wrong besides trust someone who presented themselves as someone you could trust. And when that fell apart pretty quickly, then you're in a situation where not your family, not their family, they either couldn't or wouldn't help. So that's where, we all got to come together and try and help each other out. And I want to get as much information, out there as possible. And I think I had told you before, we're becoming obnoxiously empowered because when you leave a coercive, controlling situation and you do start to heal and rebuild, and you kind of get your empowerment, kind of feel your oats, I think it might come across to some people as being a little obnoxious, like, oh God, she thinks she's so great. I don't know. What do you think?
What do I think? Hmm.
Do you think it's obnoxious?
No, no, but listening to your story, there happened to be, I don't know why there was an update, and I did not realize the story was that old. We're going back to 2012, I believe. Do you remember the name Mary Jingles?
No. Uh-uh.
Well, she was separated from her spouse, and he had threatened to kill her in that, and she had told the police. She even found a backpack in their garage with like duct tape and whatnot in it. They didn't take her seriously, and there's a video of her running from her home. Her 4-year-old daughter is following her, runs to a neighbor's house, runs upstairs. The husband comes in, shoots the innocent guy that's sleeping in the bed that lives there, and then her right in front of his 4-year-old daughter, and then he abducted her, his daughter.
God,
And
I didn't even hear that. Yeah, I know. That's all too common, unfortunately,
mhm.
these situations. And it's frightening. Um, and I think there's been a big there is a big push now for having women be empowered within themselves to, instead of, because they're using all these terms now, like the pick me girl, pick me. Um, well, who doesn't want to have a partner, a companion, a friend, someone that you can share your life with, especially when it's presented like that? Who wouldn't? And then when you are in the dating scene or the dating pool, you've kind of come to realize it's just not all it's cracked up to be. And people are not who they say they are. And I think it's just really important for people to understand and recognize things early on. There was this thing that I saw where a woman had gone on her first date, and the guy was basically telling her he's the alpha wolf and things are going to go exactly the way he says they're going to go. And he was telling her all the things that she was doing and saying wrong. And it was like right from the jump. And I remember thinking, okay, number one, you shouldn't be in his car first date. And I would recommend that you go to a public place, you meet them there, you have your own transportation, and of course your own money. Because it's going to take you time to really get to learn about who a person is. Because over time you get to see them in different situations, good days, bad days, stressful days, peaceful days, and how they talk to you and how they treat you if they disagree with you or you disagree with them. At least 3 months. Could be longer, but they're saying, at least 3 months. But, I'm going to go back to the, obnoxiously empowered. That's how I feel because, when, especially for women, see if a man does it, he is empowered and he's just being strong. And if a woman does it, they consider her, gaslighting starts. She's overbearing. She's obnoxious. There are people that are going to say that when a person decides to, choose themselves, to empower themselves, to make their own decisions. And what's interesting too is that there are a lot of women that are not going to support your decision. They're going to think that you're being dramatic. It's not that bad, blah, blah, blah. And I think we know someone like that, who shall remain nameless. um, and that's fine. That's your opinion. On the same token, you shouldn't have to make yourself feel small or make yourself small to make other people comfortable. At the end of the day, you have to be comfortable. It's not my job to make everybody around me comfortable. If they're not comfortable around me with what I'm doing and what I'm saying, then they're not my people. That's okay. Um, and this is really is for women who are just feeling small in their own life. When you're constantly second guessing yourself because of what's happening in your life, that to me is a big indicator something's going on. You just know something's not right, and you can't quite put your finger on it or quite explain it. And it could be this, could be the coercive control. Um, like I said, it's monitoring your phone, isolating you from your family and friends, controlling your finances, all of the above. So, and I think we were talking about the different things that people can do in our other podcast, like examples of state legislation that you really have to look up the laws in your state, especially if it comes to GPS tracking, where that's become more of something that's being integrated into stalking laws and making it illegal for people to track you and trace you with these devices, just so that they can keep tabs on you at all times. Um, and I know we'll have links and stuff like that, and I have a couple graphics to show kind of the cycle, and it kind of explains DARVO a little bit more on how to recognize it. And it's like anything. Once you see it, then you can't unsee it. And then you have to make the decision to not participate in that. And if you see someone in that situation, they may not oftentimes be very receptive because they even might not think it's that big of a deal because this is what, society conditions us. It's not that big of a deal. You're fine. You're just being dramatic. Or you're being difficult if, you can't just go along to get along. Because, the control, it works really slowly and it does really condition you to doubt yourself. And, that's not your personal weakness. That's actually a psychological strategy. And when people think about, leaving a situation, it's a very difficult decision. I know it is. Even when in the most horrible situation that I was in, there was a lot for me to consider. But at that point, I think my situation had gotten so desperate, there just really wasn't any other option that I saw. And I think I told you, did we ever talk about this on the podcast that he had brochures of, what do they call that? Oh, Ginger, help me. What's it called? Mail order brides.
Yes,
You
yes.
know,
Yes, you
yeah,
did.
that I found that when I was leaving, I was trying to look under the bed because that's where he would hide all the mail, because he would hide the mail from me too. So I couldn't see the bills and everything. So when I was trying to see what mail I was missing, what I wasn't getting, there was a stack of brochures for mail order brides. And I'm like, oh my God, what was this guy planning to do, having me isolated in a state with no friends, no family, and these four little kids? I mean, and I don't think I'm being dramatic or overreacting. Like, I look back at that and I think, oh my God, I got out just in time.
Yes. I used to be threatened that everything that I did wasn't good enough, taking care of the kids, cooking, cleaning. I got a freaking job, everything. And he would criticize what I did and how I did it, and it was never
Mm-hmm.
good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And he would threaten
Right.
me and say, "Oh, I can find somebody that can do this, can do it all."
Right. Right. Was
And
never good
and
enough.
then
I mean, go ahead.
I think about that, and the first thought that comes to my mind now is, and that's why you're alone.
Right. Right. Well, and people like that, they need to be alone. And I think that's a part where that women, no matter what age group they're in, have to be a lot more selective about who they allow in their space and in their life. And that's why I love the my solo and sovereign series, because I've just been so surprised to see just how many women there are, like, because haven't really talked about it except for like you or my family, where I have just said I just don't think I'm going to, I'm going to be dating again. I just don't feel like it's got anything to offer for me. I feel I have just been doing so much better on my own. And my personal space, my personal peace is just, and of course, my daughter always tells me, well, you don't know that, that could change. And no, I don't know anything 100% for sure, but I can tell you what I want. And what I want is what I have now, only a little bit better in terms of, more of a financially free situation, being debt free and everything. But who doesn't want that, right? But at least I know my money is mine. Like when it comes in, it's mine to do with it as I please, and I don't have to worry about someone trying to take it from me or trying to manipulate me with it.
Yes, because you know how frustrating it was that I paid the bills and then seen he went to the ATM and grabbed a couple $100 to go get a happy ending.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then he'd have to go to his parents and ask them for money to recoup that, and blamed me and told them I have a spending problem. And oh my God, I was so pissed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I hope once I divorced them that they realize I was never the problem. It was him. And he just got
Yeah.
worse. He was getting arrested for this or that, and they're dishing out money for a lawyer and stuff. And now his parents are gone, and he's got no one to save him. And I hope after this last stint, he's held accountable.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, the wives, the children are powerless to hold these guys accountable for anything. It's got to be the laws, and it's got to be in terms of after they've done their abuse and their crimes. Now I think I'm more focused on prevention, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That it's better to vet people first. And that could be, romantic, it could be, friendship, could be work relationships. Just kind of get a better handle on what you allow in your life and who you allow in your life. Because I know we were talking this morning too that, it doesn't even have to be guys. And I'm not anti men. And I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, she's just a man hater. No, I'm just very cautious because I've had some really bad experiences. And I know far too many women that have had similar experiences. And it's not just once or twice, it's been a continuous thing since we've started dating. It's just been one thing after the other. And I think that when we make ourselves healthier, we're empowered, we're stronger, we can then make better choices for ourselves. And, your boundaries, that's your self respect. And then you set an example for other people around you, other, doesn't matter what generation, it could be those ahead of us, those that are coming up behind us. It doesn't really matter. It's just sets a good example. Um, and you can say no to people. You don't have to over explain and apologize, which I think women, tend to do too, because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or offend anybody. Well, that's why I think the obnoxiously empowered thing kind of comes into play too, because I don't want to have to over explain. I shouldn't have to. My no is my no. My yes is my yes. And we don't have to argue over boundaries, right? I mean, I need to respect your boundaries, and I would hope that other people would then respect mine in return. And like I said, the healthier we are, I think we just make much better choices, because there's so many things that I have learned now just in the past 6 months that had I had even a fraction of this information before I started getting really serious in relationships, I would have made very different choices. And then continuing to learn what I've been learning, and of course, the laws and things that are being taught now, that it's just it's light years ahead of the kinds of things that we were seeing in relationships and our friendships and our friends, our families. It's light years ahead of that. So yeah, I'm just glad to be on this side of it. And it's good to know ahead of time like what's happening. It opens up your eyes. And then if and that's the thing too, you can give people advice. At the end of the day, they'd have to make their own choices and decisions. Just like not everyone's going to agree with me. They're going to be like, well, are you sure you want to do that? Do you really want to be single forever? Yeah, I kind of do for now. And we can still support each other and not have to agree.
Right. And it's really interesting that nowadays people who are dating, they're either like, I hear people are on Hinge or Raya, but with Raya, you have to be invited and I think kind of be famous.
Oh, okay.
And then there's other ones that I hear about, and then the dating stories that I hear. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I'm not in it. And then even hearing from my widow friends, and I think about, some of them, like, if I could only find someone decent, and I'm thinking, but you're better off being alone than getting with the wrong person, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah. And
I
like,
think
like I said, it's even harder for me. And I was kind of fired up, yesterday because I heard one woman talking about the reason why men can be so abusive is because of their coddling mothers. And I'm like, you know what? I'm really done with hearing about how women are responsible for water being wet. I am so tired of just society at large, and especially from other women. Like, no, I'm not going to pile on the moms, because you and I know very well how difficult it was for us. It really was us and our kids against the world. Like, we had no help, and we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, all the resources that so many people have today. And then when I see women on the internet talking about how, this is the reason why men are so abusive in their relationships, because of their coddling mothers. It's like, what? So let me get this straight. So it's not because of how that little boy grew up seeing how his father treated his mother, how he abused her verbally, probably physically, or his siblings, his sisters, or how his uncles treated, his aunts, and you know, how he sees, just society at large of how women are minimized. It's never that. It's never a cumulative accountability or responsibility. I just love how moms are to blame for everything. Like, how did this happen to where guys get a pass for literally everything, and especially if they've done any damage themselves? And then women are pitted against each other to say that, well, it's, it's your fault. It's, or it's your mother's fault, or it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired of hearing that. And I know I was telling you yesterday, because I think I left you a voice text. I'm like, I am so done hearing this, and I'm just not going to sit still and be quiet about it anymore. And I guess that's going to fit into the I'm being obnoxious. Oh, well, I'd
Yeah.
rather be obnoxious than stay silent and feed into the toxicity where me and you should be pitted against each other and blame each other for things that were completely out of our control.
Yeah. Well, this was a good one. Thanks for inviting me on this one because we're
Well, I'm
about
glad you
to,
joined me.
yeah, we're about to get cut off.
Oh,
But
no.
yeah,
All right, everybody. Until next time, we
be
will,
square.
I'll
It's
leave,
hip to be
uh,
square. Huey Lewis, it's hip to be square.
that's, that's right. It's hip to be square. I'll leave some more information in the show notes, and I will continue on with the series. And hopefully, you find this information helpful. If you do, like, share, subscribe, and also give us your feedback. Contact us if you would like to be um, interviewed and tell us your story. Until then, I hope everyone is well and safe.
Bye.
We love our scrappy peeps. So thank you all for joining us and becoming part of our flock. So please like, subscribe, and share. And if you don't like us, unfortunately, yo mama. But if you do like us, we look forward to seeing you next time on Two Scrappy Chicks.